All right, calling to order the November 9th Chaska Park Board meeting of 2020. Mary, call to order. Roll call, please.
Chair David Rohn. Vice Chair Jason Branch. Ernesto Ruiz Gutierrez. Joshua Ives.
Here.
David Downs.
Here.
Matt Uderman.
Here.
Elizabeth Wybing. Elizabeth
Here.
Wybing. Georgianne Keyport. Here. Zach Saressig.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, so that completes the roll call. Next up is to adopt the agenda for tonight's meeting. And I'll accept a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Commissioner Uderman, do I get a second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Downs, and any changes, corrections, additions to tonight's agenda? Hearing none, we'll go through a roll call here to get the agenda approved, starting with Commissioner Uderman.
Okay.
Commissioner Downs.
Okay.
Commissioner Weinveen.
Aye.
Commissioner Ives.
Aye.
Commissioner Saressig. Commissioner Keyport.
Aye.
All right, and I approve as well. And so that adopts the agenda for tonight's meeting. And that will move to item number 4, which is the visitor presentation. And seeing that we do not have any visitors here, we're going to go ahead and close out the visitor presentation here at 7:02. And that moves us on. I'm sorry.
We know.
Oh, wait, what's that?
To check who that is.
Yeah, we do have somebody on the iPad. I don't know.
Oh, that's right, I forgot to ask. Kevin, do we have somebody in our visitor presentation?
He's with the Arts Consortium. Steve Kelly.
Is that Cindy?
That's Steve.
There's no chat.
Okay. Should I just go ahead and ask out loud? Is there anybody out there that would like to go ahead and comment, introduce yourself as part of the visitor presentation?
Steve Kelzer?
Yes.
You're online, so go ahead and introduce yourself.
Steve Kelzer, I'm with the Arts Consortium, the music liaison.
All right, well, welcome, Steve. Thanks for joining us here. And typically we will have people provide their Chaska address on this, but I know the Arts Consortium extends beyond Chaska, but feel free to do so just kind of as a formality for us.
2025 Pioneer Trail, Chaska.
All right, excellent. Thanks for joining us. And have any questions or comments for the commission?
Not at this time.
All right, well, thank you very much for joining us here. And please stay as long as you want, and happy to have you. So with that, I believe that's the only thing that we had as far as the visitor presentation. And so now I will in fact close out the visitor presentation at 7:03 here this morning to move us on to item number 5, which is to approve the previous meeting minutes. And go ahead and take a look at those right now, assuming that everybody has had a chance to review the meeting minutes from last month of October 12th. I'll accept a motion to approve those minutes.
I move to approve.
All right, Commissioner Downs, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, second from Commissioner Uderman. Any discussion or comments on the meeting minutes from October 12th? All right, hearing none. Humor me on this. We're going to go through another quick roll call here. Commissioner Downs, approve?
Yes.
Commissioner Uderman?
Aye.
Commissioner Weinveen?
Aye.
Commissioner Ives? Commissioner Saressig?
Aye.
All right, and Commissioner Keyport?
Aye.
And I approve as well. And so that takes us through the meeting minutes of last month. And so let's go back to our agenda here. And this takes us into item number 6, which is to receive the Council and Planning Commission minutes. And we'll start with the council minutes from September 14th, September 21st, and October 5th, and October 9th in a lump sum where we're going to receive those, but I am going to ask if there were anything in those council minutes from that time span that anyone has any comment or question on.
One comment, it was nice to see that they approved the motion. Trail improvement. Yeah, yep. Apparently it was well received. Very well received, and I got a little bit of an update on that for us tonight too, so.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner Downs. Any other comments from those council minutes? All right, so then we also have Planning Commission minutes from September 9th. And for any comments or questions from what you read in those?
I've got one comment, and it's relative to what we talked about last meeting about the new development or the new townhomes that are going in off of Pioneer and the lack of a park or tot lot, as they had called it. And I noticed in the planning meeting there was no mention of any park at all in that thing. Is that the case, and is that something that we want to or try to change, or is that something that's normal for the townhome type development like that?
Yeah, so my understanding on that was there may have been just a little bit of maybe a difference in formality, so to speak, on how that approval process was occurring. But typically, if we're not identifying a park in our comp plan as part of a development, it's not necessarily then a requirement of that developer to have to put in that. But I think maybe the Planning Commission was suggesting that would be something for the developer to consider. Because it's my understanding that there are parks that sort of meet that 1 mile radius that already exists. So I think it becomes kind of something where is it a requirement, or would it be nice discussion?
Okay, so
so I think they then move forward and establish that they're not going to require the developer to install a tot lot as part of the development. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep.
I'd noticed that item. Or were there any other items there from the Planning Commission minutes that anyone would like to comment on? All right, hearing that, no motion required on the receiving of those minutes, and that will move us on to item number 7 on the agenda, which is for action items, first of which being item 7A, and that is the Arts Consortium Letter of Intent. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Director Grange to take us through that.
All right. Board Chair, Commissioners, and before we jump into these action items, I do have a couple things that I just want to mention. First of all, want to extend my congratulations to Park Board Matt Uterman being elected as a Carver County Board of Commissioner representing District 3. So congratulations there, and wish you well in your on a higher platform, and to be able to continue to partner on park related things to benefit the city of Chaska and the county. So, thank you. Congrats. And then the other item, I just wanted to say a sincere thank you to those of you that extended your condolences and words of encouragement regarding Karen Campbell that lost weeks ago. So she was a member of our staff over at the community center, and worked with the AOAs and the lodge, and she unexpectedly left us too early. And so it was, a very difficult time for our staff, and we continue to navigate that. But she meant so much to all of us in a variety of ways. And not only is it a loss for us and our department and the city, but for the entire community. She was just such a amazing community representative and involved in so many organizations and whatnot. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and say thank you for your guys' support. Okay, so first action item tonight is the Arts Consortium letter of intent. And we do have Cindy Anderson joining us tonight, and along with Steve Kelzer. Nice to meet you, Steve. Thanks for joining. And so what I'm going to do is just walk us through what this letter of intent is, explain it some more, and then turn it over to the park board for any questions, feedback you may have, and then myself and or Cindy can help answer those from there. So I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen and pull up the letter of intent. This was included in the packet that went out. Everybody see that? And I do have to apologize to those watching our online. I do, now that I got it pulled up, but if you looked at this previously in the packet, I realized just before coming here tonight that I was missing a page. Once I sent it through the scanner, I don't know if something got stuck or what, but anyways, I'm glad I caught it, and we can at least count for it tonight as we review it here together. So this letter of intent is really binding. It's not a legally binding document, but what it is it's sort of laying out how we see this partnership being, and then it allows for some feedback for the park board and or the city council. And then we'll take that feedback and, incorporate that into a formal lease agreement and a formal memorandum of understanding to then bring back to the city council for their approval for more of the long-term partnership, should they approve that. Just give us a little bit more time to work through all the legal clauses that are typically incorporated into a lease agreement, for us to have legal review if our city administrator feels that is necessary prior to going back. So this letter of intent, I provided a background which talks about the Arts Consortium and when they formed back in 2009. Programs and events, time, and some background on how they opened up their art center in 2018 in the Noterman building of over in Victoria. And then fast forward to where we are as of recent, they approached us as a potential partner and site for them to relocate their art center. Really with the idea being that it provides some more visibility for them. And on our end, we really see it as an opportunity to maximize the space we already have that's really geared towards the arts at the community center, and then to continue to build on all the possibilities for arts programming that we can do throughout the community center and the rest of our city facilities. Scroll through here. I'm gonna stop my share quick and see if I can reopen this file. It looks like it opened funny. Hold on a second.
Marshall, while you're doing that, of course, it gets to be as a kind of a reminder that anyone that goes to the City of Chaska website can access this document, or they'd be able to view it themselves through their own computers as opposed to being able to see it via screen share.
I had 2 PDF documents open, so maybe there was something with that. We'll see here. Hopefully this will come through better. There we go. So really, as we think about this partnership, really, I'm looking at it from 2 perspectives. One would be a lease agreement, which would provide the Arts Consortium some dedicated space within the facility. And those premises would be defined as the current cafeteria space in the community center, along with an adjacent storage room. And then some additional facilities that we have access to as part of this lease would be the art gallery, where they can exhibit their art, okay? But in this agreement, I do have it established that we as the City of Chaska still has reserves up to 12 weeks per year to use the art gallery or exhibit hall to display artwork of our choice. And that can certainly still be in conjunction with the Arts Consortium and partnering on the themes that they typically utilize as part of their exhibits. It would factor in up to 24 hours per year use of the conference room within Parks and Recreation, and that's really to provide them the ability to host their monthly board meetings. And then it just recognizes that any other facilities outside of those spaces or outside of the partnered programming, they would then need to rent. That's really just spelling out the premises that would be included within that lease agreement. And so their intent is within that cafeteria space would house their retail store, which features a variety of artwork that the members of their Arts Consortium has produced. And so those items are on display and would be for sale within that space. As far as the rent goes, the way we've positioned this is that there would be an established amount, kind of a base amount, starting out in year 1 on a monthly basis, $750. And that was really just sort of taking into account typical common area maintenance costs, along with sort of factoring in some of our revenue potential that we're sort of streamlining differently that we normally would have gotten through our vending in that space. We did have the ability to relocate some of that vending, but there was some machines that we did have to give back. So that was sort of the the justification for that base rent of $750. And then it had a 3% increase year after year over a 3-year lease term. But built into this is also sort of an incentive of this partnership, where if the net sales on any given month at a rate of 20% is greater than that base rent, then the Arts Consortium would owe us that greater amount. And so that just builds in some incentive for us to work together, you know, and to promote sales in that region. Sales, when we talk about sales, that really accounts for sales within that retail space. It would account for the sale of any of the items on display within the art gallery, anything that would get sold online through their network that is connected over at the community center. And so that's set up as a 3-year lease agreement, upon which at that point then we can reevaluate and then consider extending that lease agreement for another term. And then the second component of this partnership is really around the idea of partnering on the variety of programming that we can do in all of the other multi-use spaces within the community center, even here within this event center, down here at the Curling Event Center, and even out in our parks. So what I foresee here is, you know, Cindy and any of her other board members really becoming a part of our recreations staff in their team meetings as they're planning for future programs and events. So coming together and, you know, sharing ideas on the variety of things we can offer to the community, and then working together to plan and execute those in the variety of spaces. And so this letter of intent spells out, you know, what each entity would then provide as part of that planning process. And so we as a city, we would provide complimentary use of all of the city facilities being used for such programs and events. We would promote those activities and events across all of our different marketing platforms. We would set up all those activities within our online reservation system. And then our staff would handle all of the online reservations along with any in-person or over the phone registration. So really all of the handling of the financials that go along with the programs and events. And then from there, we would provide the Arts Consortium with reports that would indicate the roster reports along with the financials that go along with all of the programs and events we're planning together. And then our staff would also be the primary staff for the setup and takedown of events. And on the flip side, the Arts Consortium, they would be providing really the expertise, the artists, to execute these activities and events. They would also then be responsible for any of the supplies that would be necessary for such programs and activities. They also will create some of the marketing for us to be able to utilize across our marketing platforms. And then in addition, use their means of promoting and advertising the events as well. Ideally, they would assist in helping with setup and takedown if they have some staff or volunteers available. And then again, just really making sure that we have that ongoing communication and for the Arts Consortium to update both the city staff and the artists that are putting on these events together, so we can ensure that they're successful. So the financial arrangement on this would really be then splitting all registration revenue, 50% for the city and 50% for the Arts Consortium. And really, Cindy and I talked about this too. You know, the way I tried to put this together was to provide an equal amount of value that each entity is providing sort of on the front end to establish these programs and activities together. You know, and then starting off by splitting the registration revenue 50%. But by all means, really, I think the whole goal here is, you know, to be fair, you know, a partnership really is about one entity, you know, coming out ahead significantly over another. And so there will be opportunity for us to sort of assess that over time and factor for different expenses because inherently, you know, different programs and events are all going to be unique and have some different expenses associated with them, which can be difficult to account for all that detail in such a letter of agreement. But I think the goal here was really just to kind of establish what each entity would be providing. And I think, you know, by indicating 50% each really that really is kind of the makeup of how I see the partnership coming to more of a formality. So what happens tonight, we'll have discussion, and from there, if you're feeling comfortable, you'd make a recommendation to the city council, and then we would then take that to city council for their approval on at their next meeting on November 16th. And should the city council approve that, we would then work on those formal lease agreements and the memorandum of understanding for the programming, and then bring that back to the city council at one of their meetings in December. And then the lease agreement would commence starting January 1st. And then the memorandum of understanding effective immediately upon approval, and allow us to start that process of partnering together right away. But I'm really excited for this. I think there's a ton of opportunity to partner with the Arts Consortium. They currently are in our facility, and so I encourage you to stop by. We've arranged for their holiday market to exist in these spaces, in the cafeteria space, along with the sunroom as part of just a short-term rental, which has been kind of nice because it's allowed us to get to know each other more, and you know, establish some communication, you know, that can really set us up for success and hit the ground running should the formal agreements get approved. So encourage you to stop by and check out their artwork and the variety of items that they have as part of their holiday market. So with that, I'll turn it over to the park board and open it up for discussion, comments, and feedback.
Prior to opening up for those comments and discussion, perhaps I'd like to extend an opportunity for those that are with the Arts Consortium, Steve Kelser and Cindy Anderson. If either of you want to add to any of the things that Marshall has presented to us tonight before we start entertaining some questions, feel free to speak up via Zoom.
I am open to any questions. I know that Marshall and I have talked extensively with Mary and the park board, or Parks and Rec staff, and we are working and moving forward with different ideas, but would welcome your questions.
All right, so with that, I'll go ahead and open it up for anybody out there that has any questions or comments on the agreement.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
And you know, you guys can hear me, but I'm not sure if I'm not actually attending the meeting on my screen. So,
All right, well, this is Commissioner Ives.
yeah. And I'm probably creating a problem out of nothing, but you know, art can be occasionally controversial. And is there any sort of editorial control of the city for anything that would meet that kind of category? I didn't see anything in here, but if there were something like that, since it is a city facility, there's like an implied endorsement of, or at least, you know, something to that effect of what's being shown. So I don't know if that's been brought up at all. And again, I'm assuming I'm creating a problem that's not there, but it might be something that should be there as far as a control.
So that is a good question. Thank you. One of the things that we do as the Arts Consortium, when we have an exhibition, we do jury it. So if something that is like we don't have any nudes, we don't have any murder scenes, we don't have any explicit type of items at all, that doesn't really go with our mission statement. And we really try and make sure that the art that we bring into the center is acceptable for all people and is welcoming.
Yeah, good question, good answer. Any other questions or comments?
I've got a couple of questions, if I may.
Sure. Commissioner Downs.
In the agreement, you talk about net sales, and that the rental would be the $750 or 20% of net sales. And it goes on to detail a little bit about, you know, what net sales mean in this context. And it's basically everything that's sold out of there. And the question I had is it really net sales you're talking about, or is it net profits? Because sales, in my experience, means every dollar that comes into the place is sales. That's gross sales, basically. Where net may be sales less expenses. Are you talking about 20% of every dollar that comes in? Is that applicable to the sale of more expensive paintings?
So it's applicable to the sales, but it is net. So after the artist gets paid, I mean, they have their commission, and then what the Arts Consortium takes as their commission, we split that with the community center.
Yeah, that's what I thought would be in here, is that the cost or the payment to the artist would not be part of that number. And I think this, you might want to elaborate on this a little bit. So it's not all expenses, but it's some of the major expenses that go in. So it's not every dollar that comes into the place.
Yeah. Yeah, we can get more detailed on that explanation in the lease agreement.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be spelled out, you know, nickel and dime wise, but you know, I think this is a little bit misleading. You don't want to have it this way.
I think you just need to define what the formula for net sales is.
Yeah, yes, net's the correct word here.
Yeah, it is, and it just needs to be elaborated on a little bit. And as far as the programs, does the consortium have programs now that it, or in the past few years that it's been bringing to Victoria or other places of Carver County that would be directly related to the programs going forward?
Yes. At Victoria, we started a couple of different music events, and Steve can say more about these if he wants, but we started the music events and we held them, they're pop-up mini concerts, and right now our plan is to utilize the theater and focus on that. And then also we had literary events as well that we held within the center that the theater will also be utilized for. And so we're trying to build out the programs for the all of the different facility locations that we've got going with either the theater or the gallery exhibits or different exhibitions that we might have for holiday show, for example. But yes, we plan on continuing on with the music concerts and literary events, author readings, etc.
I guess that's all the questions I got. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions out there?
I think that this is a great partnership, and I hate contracts because they kind of suck some of the oxygen out of the room sometimes. But I think that sometimes people don't think about art and health, and they actually go side by side. Because if you look at the mental health benefits of some of the art things, sometimes that gets missed, but it's huge. People that draw paintings or they work with their hands or do pottery. So I think that this is a fantastic program for a lot of different reasons. Love the spirit of partnership. I looked tactically at this because I've looked at a bunch of contracts. We used to own retail shops, and I worked at Best Buy and property. So a couple things I wanted to just point out might be easier from a partnership perspective. One is gross versus net. You alleviate all of the what's in the middle if you just make it off of gross. And so if the Arts Consortium is generating 30% margins or more, which I think the art business typically does better than that, and did $12,500 worth of revenue in any given month, a 6% gross number would get you the $750. And so I would suggest or propose or offer to consider it just off of a gross number, because all you have to do is look at the till, how much went through the till, and then you have to have a percentage. You don't have to deal with all the stuff in between. Was this salary there? Was that salary not there? What about the electricity? What about this cost, et cetera? Second thing that I'm looking at, just from the experience of having signed a bunch of these leases, is co-marketing is really important. And within that is, okay, if we want to have all these people come in the building, we will incur the question, if it hasn't been answered already, is I just want to come here for the art. I'm not a member, I'm from outside the community. Do I have to pay to come in to experience this art? So I think we should probably close in on, if somebody came just for the art, what that looks like. Do they get to walk in, walk to the art, walk out? Do they have to pay a membership fee at the day pass? So I think that's a question to ask. The next one, the third thing I had was I'm a huge Target guy. So when it comes to these classes, I want to have a lot of classes, right? I want to have a lot of people coming for arts that wouldn't ordinarily come to the community center. So if there's a way we can tag what the projection is, not only for this partnership, but also for the community from a transparency standpoint, is it $10,000 a month? Is it 20,000? Is it 100? Because I know that was the effort of the facility that we're in right now within the partnership of the Crooked Pint. And everybody was like, we're doing great or we're not doing great, but there was really no target as to what we thought that revenue would look like. And so just to kind of let everybody off the hook is, did we hit a target of 10 grand or didn't we hit a 10 target, whatever that number is. And then one last thing, and I'll be quiet, is January is the hardest month to be in retail because you're coming off of November and December purchasing. If this is the part where the lease commences, it's a really difficult time. So I would suggest that we waive the first month of January for them to get seated in their new dwelling while sales aren't necessarily going to be there, to give them some breathing room. That was a lot, but gross sales, target revenue for partnership classes, access for non-members and what's that look like, and then co-marketing, and then January 1st at no cost. Those are my comments.
Question, sort of segueing off of what you're saying, maybe said differently, but regarding the arts programs, does the city have any expectations, minimum number, so more not maybe money worth, but number of activities they would expect their consortium to offer? Or maximum for that matter?
Yeah. I don't think we've necessarily established what a minimum is quite yet. I just inherently know it's gonna, lend itself to be more than what we're doing right now. And, right now, obviously COVID, presents challenges in what we can even do. But coming together and really understanding, what each other is capable of in this partnership and starting to generate those ideas, I think it's going to lead to a program events that is just going to be an awesome benefit for the community. But I just don't know if I can really put a number on it right now. And it sort of goes back to maybe your question about a target. I think that could be something we think about, but I think we also got to be thinking about in programming, how are we measuring the value? Is it just the financials, or is it the number of participants, that we're serving over a period of time? How do we measure the health benefit? That's sort of an indirect, benefit that this partnership is providing. So I think it's good to have goals and targets, but for us, it might take a little bit more time for us to really get to know each other and know what our capabilities are, for us to define that.
That's one of the reasons I asked the question about the programs that they've got now, that they're currently going, that I wouldn't think it would be part of the letter of intent, nor necessarily the agreement per se. But I think, it would be nice to have, here's the type of programs that we've done in the past. Here's the numbers that we've done per year, per month, per whatever. We plan on expanding those in these areas, these areas, these areas, just on the initial shot of, where it would be nice to start from and where it would be nice to head. And like you said, the COVID virus is going to dampen that aspect, pretty heavily for a while, but at least to give us an idea of the depth and scope of this thing.
I think it's probably a matter of developing metrics, and you don't know what those are yet. But
yeah, I agree that this is going to be a really good deal. It's going to be great. And everybody should be really tickled pink. And if we can put out some expectations, I think everybody will get pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I think the general disciplines of, the business practices that need to go on in terms of, having the discussions about gross versus net, in terms of trying to determine what's going to be the best way to split up the revenues on this is good. Target revenues obviously are kind of going to be a work in progress as you go through and as you see how this thing unfolds. It's impossible, not impossible, but it's really difficult. It's time to make those kinds of projections right now.
Yeah, and sometimes that's the wrong measure. That let me get on my high horse just for a minute, okay? The money is not the goal, right? The goal is the programs, and it's bringing the people in and introducing them to art and all that stuff. And those should be the targets, and the money will follow. You know, you can't put the money up first, because then you start managing to the money, and you don't want to do that. So I'd be all for setting targets for so many programs and so many different types of programs, and, you know, so many visitors to see the art and those kinds of things, and the numbers will follow if we do a good job on the other end.
I agree.
Just ask one more thing about the exhibit hall and how the city is in control or able to show whatever they select for 12 weeks out of the year. Is that amount of 12 weeks per year enough for the other parties, or whoever they are, that currently display art at the community center? So what I'm asking is, currently, or how many weeks per year are other parties displaying art, and is that amount going to be sufficient? I assume it is, since you have it here and you thought about it. But
Yeah, that's a good question. And yeah, I think it does account for that, and I think even the typical art that we've displayed, like, for example, our Treks and Trails preschool art, has always been an exhibit. But that could also, again, if it works, it could be part of one of the Arts Consortium's themes as well. So I think we can get creative, but I also just wanted to make sure we have the opportunities. For example, if you recall, a couple of years ago, there was the opportunity for us to do the exhibit on, what am I drawing a blank on? On the what?
Integrated arts.
Yeah, on the Jewish Council.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a huge hit for the community. And so sometimes there are those things that just kind of fall to us, or it gets recommended maybe through a contact in another department. And so I just want to make sure we have some flexibility built in there. And, and in talking with Cindy, I think they're very supportive of those types of opportunities that come our way as well.
Well, and if I can add just a couple of things, Aaron at the staff at the Parks and Rec.
Yep.
We are meeting with the Arts Consortium, and we will be planning the year out ahead of time. So we'll be planning those 12 weeks into the programming, so it will work simultaneously, and then that way we publish it and it will come out and everyone will know what's going on. And then we also have the flexibility in between times, like Marshall was talking about, is we can add those into another exhibit and separate it into a featured area as well.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Cindy. And so just lastly, I'd like to comment that, what we do know is that what the opportunity is that we're looking to engage into is going to be replacing really what was not happening before. So that space inside the community center, which is over the last 25 years, has been different cafes and vending machines and things like that, none of which have been really very successful at all. And I think that the potential here is enormous. And I think I might, be a broken record. I think I say it every month that, we are the Chaska Parks Board. We're, the Chaska Parks, Recs, and Arts. And arts is something that is often lost on what our charge here is as a commission. And I think, I certainly don't want to say anything that, is going to oversell this, but I think that we could look back on this as the best thing we've done in arts for our city. And I'm confident that this could really happen for us. And so I'd like to enthusiastically endorse it. We recommend that that this happens for our city. And with that, I do have.
Amen.
All right, yeah. So I do have a recommendation, and then with that, I'll go ahead and accept a motion to accept in a second. And so this is simply worded that we'd like to make a recommendation for City Council to approve the letter of intent for partnership between the City of Chaska and the Arts Consortium of Carver County. Any discussion on the wording of that?
Perfect.
All right, so with that, I'll accept a motion to approve. All right, Commissioner Keyport, do we have a second?
Second.
And that's from Commissioner Ives. Any further discussion on this action item? Hearing none, we're going to go through our roll call here, and we're going to ask for a yay or a nay, starting with Commissioner Uterman.
Yay.
Commissioner Downs. Yay. Commissioner Weinveen.
Yay.
Commissioner Ives.
Yay.
Commissioner Saresik.
Yay.
And Commissioner Keyport. All right, Commissioner Roan approves as well. And so with that, we are going to go ahead and make that recommendation to City Council. That closes out item 7A. All right, excellent work, guys. All right, so moving on, we're going to move on to Carver Recreation Agreement, item 7B, and Director Grange.
All right.
Marshall, can this is Cindy again, and I need to step off, but I wanted to thank you on behalf of the Board of Directors and the Arts Consortium. Wanted to thank you all before I did leave. So we really appreciate it, and we look forward to working with you all.
Great. Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
All right,
Good
thank you.
night. Thanks, Steve. And thank you all for your comments and feedback. That's all right. So this next action item is the memorandum of understanding for recreation services between the City of Chaska and the City of Carver. And so this agreement was in your packet. And I should probably start off by maybe not assuming that everybody knows what this is, but this actually is an agreement that was established back in 2015, and it was a 5-year agreement. So it's coming up to expire at the end of this year. And really what it is an agreement with the City of Carver that provides their residents essentially like a reciprocity to utilize City of Chaska recreation facilities at the City of Chaska resident rate, along with the City of Chaska dedicating some staff time to plan and execute some programming and events over at the City of Carver for not only for their residents, but also Chaska residents to even participate in those over in Chaska or over in Carver. And so, you know, when they did this 5 years ago, you know, I think they tried to come up with some pricing that seemed, you know, reasonable, that would account for kind of that all-inclusive value that comes with that partnership, so to speak. And so the last 3 years, we were receiving from the City of Carver $51,250 as part of that agreement. What I really did was took a little deeper dive on what the actual value is that City of Carver residents are receiving across the community center, the town course, and then the curling and event center. You so really looking at what that difference in value is between the resident rate and the non-resident rate, along with the discount that they were getting as a community center member for all of the programming we offer. A lot of our programming is based on member, non-member. And then some of the staff time that goes into that. So we've had some discussion with the City of Carver's city administrator, Brent Merrick there. And, we all came to agreement that, we needed to account for that going forward. But we also know that we're in this unique situation called COVID. It seems like COVID's the common theme here. And so we thought it was best to just do a 3-year kind of renewal of this agreement, kind of get us, ideally through COVID, and then continue to reassess from there. And, one thing that I think really is a testament to this partnership is, over the course of this past year and probably looking ahead to next year, they're probably not going to be utilizing that amount of value that they had in the past, but they understand that, and we talked about it, that, true partners are really sticking together, during difficult times too. And so we feel really good about this agreement. I think it's a great way to, look at a neighboring city that doesn't have a Parks and Recreation department and the facilities that we have, to be able to partner and come together on those things. So this really spells out kind of what that next agreement would look like. So starting out next year in 2021, the total amount would be $66,611. And then built into it is a kind of a 4% increase for the facility and programming usage, and then a 3.5% increase that goes towards the increase in staffing cost to do those programs. So that is projected then into the next 2 years for 2022 and 2023. The city of Carver has surveyed their residents to understand the value that this agreement provides, and it was overwhelmingly positive from their perspective, which was great to hear. And so then what we'll continue to do is visit with the city of Carver staff, on a quarterly basis or a seasonal basis when we're planning programs, and really account for their resident feedback along with their staff feedback, and their park commission, to help us sort of decide what types of programs and events that would make sense for their community over there, in conjunction with the facilities and spaces we have access to.
How many members does the community center have from Carver? Do you know? Lots and lots and lots?
It's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head, but it's a fair amount. Yeah.
Is the formula tagged against population? Because if you talk to one former mayor, the city of Carver will be the largest city in Carver County at some point.
Yep. Currently it doesn't, but we've had some discussion on that, and so I think, again, we get out of COVID, and then the formula may change to account more for population growth.
They have it in their capital plan to have a community center once they hit 30,000 in population, 20,000 in population.
I'm aware of.
Because I know there's going to be capital expenditures, and this is a pittance compared to what that capital expense will be as we take on capacity, et cetera. And now is fine because they're a town of 6,000 people. They're paying $8 a resident to have access to the facility, community facility. But when they get into 12, 13, 14, 15,000, that'll be putting stress on this facility that far exceeds whatever this agreement price is. So I don't know if there's in the conversation in the next 3 year, maybe it's a 5-year plan. You'll still be here. To talk about as we make capital expenses, will they be chipping in for those as well? But yeah, their math is about $8 a resident to have access to the facility at those rates. And I mean, you talked about not just the community center. That's what I always think of when you think about it. It's town course. I mean, I know there's a lot of golfers in a highly concentrated, wealthy Carver. That alone. And then if you look at par 30, which is going to be remade and look beautiful, and the event center, and I got 4, 5, 6 times more value in the last 5 years for. So.
But also, like, you know, if maybe if they didn't get a discount, they wouldn't be using, not as many residents maybe would be using this facility.
Yeah, I think a lot of
not just this, but you know, community center and all the facilities.
You always look at what's the next best alternative. What's their next best alternative? To drive another 6 miles to Lifetime?
Yeah, probably.
Right.
Which is a different category itself, but.
Exactly.
And do we need to, since the par 30 is changing, and I don't know much about it, to be honest. I think it's changing names too. Is that right?
Yeah.
So would we need to update this agreement to
Good point. Yeah. We'll have to
par 30 from it?
It is going to be under.
getting renamed to the Loop. The Loop.
That was the Dave Rowan Golf Experience.
Right.
No?
All right, whatever, you know, is in here, this has been worked through with officials from Carver and the Parks Department. So assuming that, you know, you guys are, you know, walking together, you know, in getting us to this point, I guess, you know, open it up to discussion at this point, or have we already conducted that? Maybe it's at this point that we would, unless somebody else has a question out there, any additional questions, we'll go ahead and make a recommendation. All right, well, hearing none, then I'm going to go ahead and do that and ask for a motion. And so this will be for a recommendation for the city council to approve the memorandum of understanding for recreation services between the city of Carver and the city of Chaska. Sound good, Dave?
That's great.
All right, got running past you.
You're on a roll.
All right, so with that, do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
All right, Commissioner Downs, do we have a second? All right, Commissioner Keyport, any further discussion on this?
I have to interject this. Like, we're here to represent Chaska, right? I'll wear a different hat in a couple months, but we're here to represent Chaska. And I know last year we had a 10% tax increase as residents of Chaska. And I think that when we look at this, it just feels like $51,000. It's great for partnership. It is a pittance compared to the value that's getting. And I don't want to disrespect the work that's been done behind the scenes, but it's hard to take a 10% tax increase as a resident and not necessarily see a 10% increase in some of these arrangements. I think they're getting tremendous value for a little bit limited amount of dollars. I also think that there's a sizable gap, to your point, Josh, of what they can do and what the next best alternative is. We talk about it when it comes to the cops. Right? The next best alternative is not to have our own PD, but the cost to walk away from that, or the cost of Victoria or Chanhassen to have their own police department. The alternative is just so much more expensive. And I think the same is true here. And so I just think this is really small compared to what our residents are experiencing for tax increases. I also think it's small compared to the value that's been generated even in the in the contract period with the new facilities and some of the stuff that's going on. And I appreciate the spirit of partnership. I really do. But we're going to have some tough headwinds in the next couple of years when it comes to COVID, when it comes to 25+ year building and capital expenses. I just think this is too small right now, given the interests of Chaska residents. That's one person.
And I'd point out too, you know, what these financials aren't showing is the actual membership revenue we're getting from City of Carver residents. So to your point, you had asked, how many residents are members. I don't have that off the top of my head, but that's something to be factored in, and, we don't know whether or not they would have joined anyways, possibly, but, to some extent, those that have decided to join, I think this is then accounting for, that difference that they would have had to pay. But you're right, some of that conversation, it's around actual value versus this broad access kind of value proposition. So I get it.
Yep. I appreciate your concerns too on that, Matt, as well. And I think that it's good now. This is kind of a subsidy that the city of Carver, I think, likes to be able to provide to the people that live there, because if they look around town, they don't see a lot, right? So, but if they can get access to what we got here, we are going to still get, the membership fees. They're going to be paying their dues to take part in the different things. It's just that they're going to do them at a local rate as opposed. And so the fact that, Carver's changing fast, like you say, there's a lot going on there, and it is, a lot of affluence moving into that area, and as it has been for a long time. I think that this agreement, can to a degree be saved by the fact that it's fairly short. So we'll take a look at what, things look like going forward. And I'm sure they'll do their best to, drill down on the numbers the best they can. And at this point, though, I'd still feel comfortable recommending what we've got here to the city council, but I do appreciate your sharing your view on that.
And if it's not working out, we can terminate it, right?
Sorry?
If it's not working out, if something comes up, if we decide it's not working for us, it says right here that we can terminate it or renegotiate it, right?
It's a 3-year agreement, so.
120 days.
Chaska or Carver shall have the option to terminate or renegotiate the terms of this agreement upon 120 days written notice to other party. So that's any time throughout the 3 years we can do that?
Correct.
Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
So if 12 months into it, the numbers aren't adding up, or we look like, to Matt's point, if things aren't adding up in terms of the value that's being delivered for the monies that we're receiving, we can renegotiate it, correct?
Yep.
That's how I read it.
Okay.
All right, any other discussion on this? All right, hearing none, we're going to go ahead and do yay or nay. So Commissioner Uterman.
Yay.
Commissioner Downs.
Yay.
Commissioner Weinveen.
Yay.
Commissioner Ives.
Yay.
Commissioner Saresig.
Yay.
Commissioner Keyport.
Hey,
And Commissioner Roan, yay as well. And so with that, we are going to go ahead and approve that recommendation to City Council on this item to recreational services between City of Carver and City of Chaska. And we are done with that. All right, thanks, folks. And so that moves us on to agenda item number 8. These are discussion items. And starting with the Lake Grace Trail update. And so, Director Grange, I believe you are on again.
So had a meeting last week with Public Works Director Brian Jung, City Engineer Matt Clark, along with representatives from Stantec engineering firm to discuss this project, and wanted to just share that Brian Jung has secured a contractor for the tree removal. So if you recall, there's that massive cottonwood tree that needs to be removed as part of this project, along with some other, more minor clearing and trimming of trees, and then some minor removal of wooden retaining walls, and, you know, some re-excavating in those areas. So that work is, again, you know, weather permitting, set to take place sometime in early December. And then we're working with Stantec to put together a bid package for the construction and installation of the bridge that's required as part of this project. That'll be going out. That'll be advertised here shortly, and then we anticipate we would be awarding the bids awarding the bid to the contractor for the bridge sometime probably end of the year. And then it's my understanding it's about an 8 to 10 week lead time for the construction of that bridge. So, you know, depending on where that puts us, it'll be kind of a weather related decision as to when that gets installed. And, you know, the further out in spring, you know, you got road restrictions that you need to contend with as well for heavy equipment. But nonetheless, I feel pretty confident that we'll have that installed, you know, sometime for sure, you know, in June, early July. And then it would be Brian Jung's crew coming back and then doing an overlay of that existing trail that's there. So it is coming along, and just wanted to provide that update, and I'll continue to, you know, give updates as I know more over time until that project's completed.
All right, any questions on the Lake Grace Trail update? All right, moving on. Item 8B, Chaska Community Center member rates.
All right, so this item is related, you know, related to budget. And so right now we are in the midst as a city in our budgeting process, and wanted to make you aware that our curling and event center budget will be going before the city council at their next meeting on November 16th. And then the community center budget is slated to go before the city council at their November 30th meeting. And, you know, so you can learn more about those budgets, you know, per those city council meetings. But I did want to share with you what we're proposing for a change in our membership rates and structure at the community center. And so before I get into it too much, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I also provided you a handout for those of you that are here to follow along as well. So, so this sheet really lays out a comparison of membership rates to other like community centers in the metro area. And that top section is reflective of memberships that are on a monthly billing plan. So kind of a month-to-month membership that's done via an automatic withdrawal. And then the bottom half of those rates reflect an annual prepaid membership. These are memberships where people pay for a full year upfront in advance. And then you got the different sort of categories of memberships going across there. And so what I've done is at the bottom of each of those, you can see what our current rates are, and then what we're proposing for changes going into next year. And this is really some of the rate increase is building upon what we had proposed as part of our budget with the city council last year. So even pre-COVID, you know, we were starting to see a gap in our revenues compared to our operating expenses, which really led to us having to think about, our primary revenue at the community center, which is through memberships. And, in comparing rates last year, it's very evident that we were well below average compared to a lot of other community centers. And so we really set forth kind of a 5-year plan to try to make up for that. And so I believe last year we did a 4% increase in rates, and then we're looking at approximately a 7% increase over the next 3 years, and then that 5th year would be a 3%. And that spread out over time, knowing that other facilities are also probably going to be increasing their rates over those 5 years as well, should get us probably a little more closer to the average with what's out there. And again, some of this can be hard because we're trying to compare like facilities the best we can, but obviously each one has its own unique elements to it. So to go through this a little bit, probably the biggest, let me point out some of the significant changes that we're proposing. And the first one would be the implementation of a dual membership rate. So currently, we really only offer a single membership, and that could be a youth, an adult, or what we call currently now an AOA rate, as a single person or an individual. And then the next tier jumps to a household. And you can see there that pretty much every other community center, they have a dual membership, which is pretty common in the fitness industry, to account for those that, may not have kids, or maybe it's just one parent and one other kids. So there's some flexibility in how they're looking at membership options. So we'd be including that. We would actually be forgoing the youth single rate and just going to either basically just be a single, or there would be the option for a senior rate as a single. And then there is, for the seniors, also the option for a senior dual membership would be the other new addition there. As it relates to the senior, that's another change, philosophical change we're looking at. So currently we offer what's called an AOA membership rate, which provides a pretty significant discount starting at the age of 55. That would be this rate here that I'm circling is so a senior single. Now, granted, we call it AOA, but for the sake of trying to compare across all these facilities, we called it senior. But no other facility in our research offered a senior discount that began at the age of 55. Pretty much every facility out there begins those discounts either at the age of 62 or 65. 62 used to generally be the common age at which a lot of programming was built around for seniors. So there's that sort of thought process when thinking about the age of 62. And then what happened was AARP really wanted to expand their membership. And so they started accounting for seniors beginning at the age of 55. And this happened a while ago. And that really led to a lot of park and rec agencies as they thought about their traditional senior centers and then the programming that they were providing to also kind of mimic AARP and being more inclusive of adults starting at the age of 55 with their programming. But I think there's just been, not necessarily a defined way on how that looks across other, memberships and things that a 55-year-old may take advantage of with what we're offering. And then, the age of 65 is obviously the age at which people qualify for Medicare. And a lot of Medicare plans now include silver sneakers or silver and fit within their insurance premium. And that provides them essentially free access to the fitness partnering facilities, which we are a partner of. So essentially they're paying for it on the back end in their insurance, but then we have an agreement with those entities where we get paid a dollar amount per visit, and so then we do a monthly report that shows their insured members came to our facility X amount of times, and then that's how that money gets accounted for. So what we're proposing is that we would move our rate and call it a senior rate rather than an AOA, because we don't want to create confusion with the programming we provide for our AOAs. And we want to continue a lot of the programming that we do provide in the lodge to 55 and up. But we would transition our community center membership to a senior rate starting at the age of 62. We feel that provides those individuals a discount that can kind of bridge them up into 65 when they are Medicare eligible. And then, ideally, they then have access to those silver sneaker or silver and fit plans. Another change that we'd be looking at implementing as it relates to our month-to-month automatic billing memberships would be a $25 upfront administrative fee. There is work for staff to have to administer those memberships over time. Individuals join and cancel, on an ongoing basis. And not that, we want to make it a deterrent for people to cancel and rejoin, but it just sort of accounts for some of the processing and ongoing management that it does take to manage month-to-month memberships. And then what we really tried to do was build in some talking points into how we are pricing our membership and sort of the value as you look from single to dual to household. And so the dual membership is priced at a rate of 1.5 times the rate of a single membership. And then the household membership is currently priced at twice the rate of a single membership. So if you think about that, that's still a lot of great value for a household that may have multiple kids. When you talk through it from that perspective. And then at the bottom there, you can see what the average rates are. So this is looking at the average of those other community centers and then allows us to see where we sit compared to the average across those facilities. And going through those, I think we're actually sitting below average, even with our proposed increase in rates next year across every single one of those categories. So I think that's still shows the value that we're providing, but I think for us to be mindful of our revenue and kind of rebuilding our membership over time, I really think that this structure, sort of methodology in how we're structuring our rates will set us up for success in the long run. The other thing I'll point out is generally I've always looked at the regular rate or the non-resident rate being positioned at about 15% above and beyond what the resident rate is. Currently, it's actually higher than that, but I felt like rather than decreasing the regular rate to create that 15% separation, we would just hold their rate flat and then allow our increase in resident rates over time to catch up to that until we see that 15% difference in rate there. And with that, it's kind of interesting as you compare city-owned facilities to the private sector, because the private sector doesn't really create rates based on residents or non-residents, especially from a membership perspective. It's actually a win if you can attract somebody that lives far away and wants to be a member of your facility, because the research will show that, your primary market for a fitness facility is about 3 to 5 miles. One needs to either live or work within that radius for them to have kind of that actually utilize the facility on a regular basis. So I think we definitely want to acknowledge the fact that taxpayers help build the facility. So they should definitely have a discounted rate, but we don't want to necessarily have such a pricing gap for the non-residents, that it becomes sort of a perceived deterrent for them to want to join the community center.
Can I ask a question? Are we still having the discount for people that are non-residents but work in the city?
Yep. So that's at sort of a 50% rate between the difference of the resident rate and the regular or non-resident rate.
And do you have the numbers on how many non-residents are currently members? What kind of percentage that is? Do you have any feel for that?
I don't.
What I'm concerned about is that the household rate has gone up pretty substantially. And if people have, one child and they want to participate, a family, the dual doesn't do them any good. So it's going up substantially, and it's really going up pretty substantially for non-residents or regular users. Going from 788 to 1,020 is a bit of a large bite, I think. I think you haven't introduced these rates yet to the marketplace, I assume. I think that one's going to be I think that one may be a killer for some of the people. It's going to be bad for even the residents that it's a family of 3. That that's going to be fairly tough for them to swallow.
Marshall, did you say that this was kind of year one of these new proposed rates, and then the next 4 years you planned on increasing rates by 7% each year? Did I mishear that?
So this is actually would be year two of a 5-year plan that was laid out to the city council as of last year.
Okay.
Yep.
Are
You know, and I would just say that, you know, we struggle with it because we sort of feel like we're in a conundrum here, in that, you know, we've lost a lot of members due to COVID, and then, you know, do you then raise rates? You know, but in talking with our city administrator and our finance team, we felt like initially we just needed to sort of stick to the original plan. You know, because COVID or not, you know, we were already well below average, you know, and the more we delay that, I think the more we're just going to create a gap potentially between, you know, our revenue capability and then the expenses there. So, you know, 7%. I know sometimes percentages too can kind of skew the perception a little bit, you know. But generally, you know, if you just, a lot of this gets built off of the single rate, you know, that's what you kind of start with. And then your kind of methodology for the dual and the household and the senior rate is kind of based off of that individual rate, which is, you know, going up $2 per month, if you wanted to look at it that way, from last year to what we're proposing next year.
Yeah, the single rate's not the issue. It's the dual is new, so nobody has a dual rate currently. So they're not going to see an increase there, certainly. So you're going to have people that are going to move down from the household to the dual. Okay, so that's not going to be a revenue generator. That's going to be a decrease in your revenue. And then you've got the people that are still in the household category, the family of 3 or more, that their increase is 40%. Is that about right? No.
It's more like 20.
So I will point out that those that are currently getting the household rate that might now get that dual rate, actually their rate will stay about the same. So we're not losing revenue there. It's probably staying about the same. But you are correct. I mean, the reality is the household rate inherently has to go up by implementing this dual membership sort of into the structure.
So I fall into the household, my wife, myself, 2 kids, and Dave, valid point. If I was looking before and after, and last year we wrote a check for $565 and this year we wrote a check for $758, it's like, oof. But then if I look at it, my kids in Scouts, we wrote a check for $210 and we get whatever we get out of that. If I look at this on a per person basis, it's less than Scouts for a year, and I get to use it every day. So there's a lot of ways to justify it. The other thing I look at is I think in the past there's been a promotion that said, lock in your rates by such and such a date and you get this year's rates. And I don't know if that's planned again this year or not, but it feels like if you pay for a full year, it's buy 10 months and get 2 months free, loosely, right? So by family, we look at June and July, we're really busy in June and July, and we're that family that'd be like, eesh, should we keep it kicked in even though we're not going to use it for June and July? Because we're outside and we're traveling and whatever. And this helped us get the math through, like, well, if we're going to be there for the other 8, 9, 10 months, might as well keep it active for June and July, especially if there's a $25 penalty for signing up.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be extremely hard. In my previous life, when I wasn't retired, okay, I did a lot of price increases with our customers. And justifying price increases is difficult at best, okay? And you're going to have people come in and say, what increased your cost so much that you have to raise my rates 34%? And we're going to say, well, it's market value, and that's going to go over like a lead balloon. As long as we're willing to stand up, and I always told my sales guys, okay, when you go in for a price increase, you go in and you deserve the increase, right? That's the only way you sell it, is because you deserve it, okay? Tell me why you deserve that. That's going to be the question. And I haven't heard anything other than we compared rates and stuff and we found out we're below market. And so we're going to take a 34% increase on you this year. Tough, pretty tough.
Have you thought of doing any, so Lifetime, they have like a, like an add-on type of membership schedule. So if you have 3 kids versus 1 kid, for example, and you have a husband, wife, or whatever, a partner, you pay less than, you know, with 1 kid than 3 kids. And obviously when you're a household, you could be 3 or you could be 8. And obviously the household with 8 is getting a lot more value than a household of 3. And I know that may not be what other cities are doing, but this seems like the city of Chaska is operating a little differently in the past anyway. So I don't know if you've thought about doing something like that. So a smaller household wouldn't see, obviously you'd have to refinagle these, but as drastic maybe of increase, whereas a larger household probably would. And maybe it'd be more palatable because, hey, I have 5 kids. I'm here all the time. I don't like the increase, but it may kind of make sense. And I'm not going to not do it.
Top model, regular price, $5, $5.
What's that?
Remember that? It was by regular price, $5. You could buy as many pizzas as you wanted.
Yeah,
do you remember that?
We
I don't do other members.
You can handle the marketing of this. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe that's not going to satisfy everyone for a price increase, because at the end of the day, a lot of people aren't going to like it. But for the people that do qualify as a household, however number of add-ons they have, maybe it would be more easily answered argument or objection from them. I don't know. It's complicated though. I know it gets more complicated then.
When you were leading sales, at the end of the day, they'd say, Dave, you got to go get this number.
Right.
And you got to go get a number. And this is where it's sitting, right? If it's not here, it gets spread like peanut butter else. Your proposed fee goes from 25 to 26.50. I mean, it's all a equation, right? You got to get to a number, and the unknown is how many people are going to utilize it. One of the thoughts that I had is introducing the formulas make sense. 50% more for a dual. Buy one, get one half off, right? Whether it's a family member or non-family member, I'd imagine. The thing that comes up a lot from a library perspective is who are the people that aren't being served. And so I don't know if it's been considered. I don't know if other community centers do the same. And I'm going to use the wrong terminology, but what about distressed? We've got a lot of distressed families in the community right now, right? Mom lost a job, dad lost a job, both kids are, whatever it is. They probably need a community center more now than they've used in the past, especially when we reopen. Is there a distress rate for people that may be left to the wayside because they can't afford $25 a month? Or is there a mechanism for people that need or want or could use the community center that aren't able to get there? I know there was an instance where there was somebody that came to the community as an exchange student and they couldn't afford it. So we approached, this was pre-U, and they figured out a way to get the individual some form of a membership for the time that they were in town. So I was just curious about from a distressed standpoint, because library, we want to waive fees, or we want to do this, or we want to do that, because we don't want to deter young kids, especially young readers, from coming to read. We don't want to deter people from being healthy, especially in a time when we know that the mental health challenge within Minnesota winter with COVID is going to be ridiculous, right? This cycle. So how do we have a fee structure, but not dissuade people that maybe can't afford it right now?
We do have, a scholarship available that assists with some of those. You'll also see at the bottom there, these are a couple of new things that we're looking at implementing just to provide some more options and flexibility for people. So a 10 visit punch pass, which is actually an 11 visit because it's you buy 10, you get one free. You know, but that provides people the flexibility to use those 10 visits how they want. You know, they don't have to sign up for a formal monthly plan. They don't have to, you know, put down the money for a full annual membership. And then another option is just a 30-day prepaid pass. You know, so that can be a nice option for people, you know, students that are home for the holidays and have a month off, you know, or maybe it's somebody that just wants to sort of try it before they commit to, you know, a more long-term plan. So trying to build in some other options, you know, that can accommodate people that might not be quite ready to commit to a full membership.
Hey, Marshall, a quick question. My family moved to Chaska almost 7 years ago. And when we first moved here, we joined the community center. I feel like the rates actually used to be higher than what you're even proposing here. It might be possible that I'm not remembering correctly, but what's the history of the membership dues to the best of your knowledge? Did we lower them at one point in an attempt to try to increase membership? I know that sometimes we caught onto a deal at one point because I know we signed up when we first moved here almost 7 years ago, and I feel like the rates were actually higher at that point, but I don't remember exactly what they're paying. I might be getting it mixed up with something else. Just curious what the historically what the rates.
Making so much more money, Zach.
Well, it's because I live in Carver County, Matt.
I do know this, Zach, that I can't remember the number specifically, but I know that there was a shift made where a lot of the programming that used to be, they used to have to pay for, in addition to your membership, is now included in your membership. And so there's been a greater value that's been added to the overall package without an increase in price.
There's a cost to that.
There's a cost in that, right?
I would point out that some of these other comparison community centers, they are still structured that way where, you know, this membership doesn't include group fitness classes, yet we're still below their, you know, those average rates. Couple other things I wanted to point out because you sort of mentioned it in trying to determine the value of the annual membership versus the month-to-month. That's set up where essentially by purchasing the annual membership up front, if you were to compare it to the month-to-month rate, you're getting 1 month free. Plus you're not having to pay that $25 administrative fee. So that's sort of the talking point behind which type of option would you prefer, you know? So obviously the monthly one provides more flexibility because you can cancel at any time. But if you know that, you know, you're going to be here and you're just a regular and you're committed, then it makes sense to, you know, purchase that annual and save a little bit up front. And then the senior rate is set as a 15% discount off of the corresponding single or dual rate. So I just wanted to mention the methodology, kind of those rates.
You know, navigating through this it's never easy work to do, and but ultimately you really kind of try and run a business, you know, and so what you're trying to do here is provide as good a value as you can for the dollars that you need to draw for it. And people are going to go out there and they're going to shop their options, and you got to see how you stand. And I'd like to think that, you know, the community center has over the years delivered, you know, a good value for the dollar spent, and expect they'll continue to do so. We'll see what happens.
And I mean, in the, you know, this is going to get proposed to the city council as part of kind of our budget package. And so, they'll have the opportunity to
What does
weigh.
it look like for the overall budget for next year?
Right now, we're probably, we're projecting a shortfall.
Significant shortfall, I'm sure.
I think that's prepared to, explain that to the city council and, what some short-term options we have as a city, to balance that budget. The reality is community centers, fitness centers, all across, everywhere are hurting. We're not alone in this. And so
It's not going to result in lessening of what is provided at the community center because of budget shortfalls. But my question is, let me get to the question. If we go in and we give them this kind of increase, we're not going to decrease services at the same time.
other than, as right now, we have modified our operating hours a little bit. So, we plan to kind of stick with our current hours right now. But, we wouldn't be going backwards on the services we're providing. Well, I will point out one example, though, of maybe a change. So, currently, we're offering 40 some group fitness classes a week, and that's consistent with what we had offered, back when we had full membership. So some of that stuff you got to look at sort of scaling with what our membership percentage is, because again, those are pretty expensive costs. And the reality is, when you're seeing some consistent classes that just really aren't bringing in the number of participants to justify, the cost, we could see a reduction in like some of the group fitness offerings we provide.
Not significant.
Anything else on that, Marshall? This is an action item, I guess. So,
I just really wanted to bring it before you, and it was good to hear your initial reaction and get your thoughts. Honestly, they're going to be probably the same questions the city council is going to have. So it's a good test drive for me to be prepared.
Pricing is hard. If you increase prices, for example, the one that sticks out obviously is the household increase. If you lose people because of that, it's not like and you have to, go back and try to get them again. It's tough to get those customers back once they maybe shift somewhere else. So it's just these are tough choices.
But I think, that the way the growth has been before the COVID with the community center, we're running out of space with the number of members that we have and the programs that we offer. So I would think that, just looking at it from a financial standpoint, once the COVID virus gets done, we're still going to be near capacity in that place. And it's not going to be a question of price on the thing. It's going to be a question of availability. I would think that in the not too distant future, we're probably going to be limiting memberships.
Yeah, that'd be a positive problem for us to have.
Don't you think we're in good times where we'd be at pretty much capacity there?
Yeah, I think, certain components of the facility are definitely, we're at that point maybe compared to some others, and a lot of times it's, built around time of day too. But I think that's another example of why, what I'm really hoping to do next year will be a pretty significant planning process that I had talked about in the past is, really thinking about what the community center is going to be for the next 30 years, engaging our community and the variety of, our members and stakeholders. Because maybe it makes sense to repurpose some areas of the building to accommodate new uses or trends, or maybe it does result in, some remodeling or expansion of some sort. So I think it'd be, a good process for us to start thinking about, what is the future going to look like? Because, we will get past COVID. And, it's been just an awesome facility for the community, and it's turning 30 years old next year. So that's the other thing is, we're, as a staff, trying to think of some ideas on bringing awareness to that and celebrating the fact that we're 30 years. But I think it presents that opportunity to look ahead and develop a master plan for us, to implement over time.
All right, excellent. Good discussion there. And so with that, we can move on to discussion item 8C, 2021 Park Board meeting date change.
Yes, so I brought this to your attention last meeting and just wanted to loop back. He's not here tonight, Ernesto, but he wasn't here last meeting. We wanted to make sure we were accounting for his voice and his availability going forward. We were able to connect with him, and he actually felt Tuesdays might actually be more favorable for his schedule. So that being said, we are going to go ahead and put that on the city council's consent agenda for them to approve at their next meeting. And so we'd be looking at starting in January of next year. We would meet the second Tuesday of every month at 7 o'clock rather than Monday. So, and that was simply just, the fact that we typically have a couple of months each year where we conflict due to holidays and whatnot with city council. And so this would allow us to avoid that. That's it on that one.
Okay. Discussion item 8D for the 2021 Park Board Chair and Vice Chair positions. Did you want to speak to this, or did you want me?
Yeah, so again, just a reminder that next month we'll need to, or you all will need to decide on a new chair and vice chair going forward, because Dave Rohn will have completed his final year of a 9-year term, which is how many of those have you done?
2.5.
It's his 30th year, just like the community center.
20 something. I don't know
Get
the
the
exact
watch.
number. Yeah, there should be a watch involved. Yeah.
Anyway, so we need to have that discussion at next month's meeting, because then we can put that on the city council's agenda for them to recommend in time for us to then have a new acting chair and vice chair for our January meeting starting next year. And so if you have an interest, or even if you want to learn more about it or have questions about it, I encourage you to reach out to Dave Rohn, and he can share with you some more about, the duties of a chair. But then at next month's meeting, any one of you can nominate somebody else, or if the room is silent, you can always nominate yourself as well. So
Does the vice chair move up to the chair automatically? Or
No.
no, they're brand new every
Yeah.
season. Okay,
It's a whole new election.
got it.
Get signs.
I don't think there's any campaign signs traditionally for the park board chair. I'll get you one.
You got a resource for those?
So that's, this is the second month we've talked about this. So I just wanted to, create the awareness so that, there's no surprise when we get to our meeting next month, that'll be something for us to decide on on that agenda. And that's it.
All right, outstanding. So it closes out item 8 on the agenda, taking us to 9, which is other business, which is 9A, board round table. And so we are going to start here by having people that are out there on Zoom land to see if they have some comments. So why don't we start with Elizabeth Weinveen? Do you have anything on roundtable that you would like to bring up?
Well, it was briefly brought up on the call this evening, but if anyone's noticed and driven by the former Chaska Par 30, now renamed, as we talked about, the Loop at Chaska, construction is well underway, and it's really fun to look at what's happening and kind of watch the new course be formed, focusing on a barrier-free golf for everyone. So I'd encourage people to just drive by and check it out. It's really neat.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much. Anything else, Elizabeth?
Marshall, I do have maybe one question for you. I know that during kind of the quarantine lockdown time, the Chaska Community Center put together some holiday packets, maybe around Easter time frame and maybe Valentine's Day or some other holidays for kids to come pick up, and maybe there was a small fee for those. I was just wondering if you guys had thought about doing something like that, just as numbers are kind of up for COVID again, and just offering something for families to pick up, purchase, take home, and kind of keep busy during these winter dark months.
Yeah, I think you're referring to the take and make.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but I will definitely forward that feedback to our recreation staff. I think it's a great idea, especially as we're approaching, the Thanksgiving and other holidays. So.
Great, thanks.
All right, Commissioner Weinveen. So moving on, Commissioner Saresic.
I don't have anything major, just that we've been to the pool, my daughters and I, a couple times in the last month, and we've really enjoyed getting back there and seeing some of the familiar faces of the staff that are still there or back. A lot of familiar faces, super bright in there, and it's just really nice to get back there. That's all I got.
All right, thank you, Zach.
Looks great in there.
All right, moving on. Commissioner Uterman.
I already missed Karen Campbell and her hugs, and she was community, not just for Chaska, but Carver County. She'll be missed. And I think she's a casualty of COVID. I think she died of a broken heart because she didn't get a chance to connect with people. And I just think it's worth a reminder that interactions and phone calls are important, especially in Minnesota through COVID, through January, February, March, April. As we might have highs with Christmas with our families or new ones or loved ones or whatever, there's also people that are not having that time. And I think that it's a good chance to reiterate the notion of a legacy park or something to honor people like Karen. Karen didn't just put in a lot of time and energy. She was the face of the community center, and we'll miss her. So I just offer that thought of legacy park. I know others have tried to or want to honor Karen in some way that's not just flowers. but I wanted to say that she was Chaska, and the importance of outdoor activities. She called people right up to the end. I mean, she was calling AOA members that were regulars just to encourage them. And I just think her legacy will live on. Second thing is congratulations to the staff. The community park effort that was sold out for Halloween was fantastic. I heard from a number of friends. They're like, "Ooh, it's $5 and it's outside." I said, "But it's sold out. There's high demand." And they went through and did it, and they thought it was fantastic. I don't know if you were there or not, but I came by before and after, and it just looked like it was a great event. Liz is right. There's a lot of dirt being moved at the par 30, the loop. And then I guess, when you move on, there's life after this. Former park board member Sean Olson got elected to the school board. So it's kind of cool to see somebody that served so many years in the park board serving elsewhere as well. So he's become an asset for the community. I just wanted to shout out to Sean and his service to the community here and now on the school board. That's it.
All right, great. Thank you, Matt. And so Commissioner Downs.
Don't have anything tonight.
All right, and so Commissioner Keyport.
I had just noticed the revised new website. I had noticed that on the city council meeting. I had not known that they had updated it. That was nice. They incorporated the park board on there. So I just thought they did a nice job.
Excellent. And Commissioner Ives.
I think I just wanted to say that I don't think I've kind of appreciated the trail system locally as much as I did last week with the kind of surprise warm weather in a long time, probably since the beginning of this whole debacle. Yesterday I went from I think it's Carver Riverside Park. So everybody downtown, it's like Riverside or River Bend. Yeah. It goes along the river, obviously. It's just gorgeous. And it goes up through Chaska Lake and then obviously to kind of 61 and it goes back to Carver. But it took my 5 and 6-year-old, they made the whole 4-mile journey. I'd bring water next time. But the point is with all that's happening, having a place to go outside where you can be by yourself, you can be with others, and in this case still be socially distant. It's just really nice, and I just really noticed it as kind of a surprise last week, just because I wanted to get outside every single day with the kids and family. So I just wanted to bring that up. It was really nice. And I've been doing other trails, and there's just so much. It's just fun to get lost in this area. And Dave and I have met each other several times on the trails trying to do that very thing. So It's been cool.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's it.
All right. Thanks, Josh. My final comments here, just to kind of echo some that have already been made. Congratulations to Sean Olson, our fellow commissioner here from the Parks Commission, in being elected to District 112 School Board. And I'm sure that that's a big win for the school board. Sean's was a great contributor here, and I'm sure he's going to do wonderful things there too. So happy to see that for Sean. Congratulations to current fellow commissioner, Matt Uterman, on his election as a Carver County Commissioner. And you, I think, ran a great campaign. You should be proud. And you conducted yourself with class. So congratulations. And I'm sure that's a big win for Carver County. All right. Then lastly, I can't help but make mention of my condolences and sympathies to, park staff and to everyone at the lodge with the passing of Karen Campbell, and to the community at large and all the friends that she made. And, and was, I was the recipient of a lot of hugs too, and came to learn that I was not the only one she called sweetie. But what a wonderful person she was, and it was very tragic that she went so soon, way too soon. So at any rate, I want to close with that. And so with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. All right, Commissioner Uterman, a second.
Second.
Commissioner Ives, and now we got to do the quick roll call here. So all in favor say aye, starting with Commissioner Uterman. Aye. Commissioner Downs. Aye. Commissioner Weinveen.
Aye.
Commissioner Ives.
Aye.
Commissioner Saresic.
Aye.
Commissioner Keyport.
Aye.
And I agree as well. And so with that, we are adjourned.